Is there a value in playing an opponent that played Richmond, who you know? Does that make the video any more, I don't know, informative?
It does, because you can compare and say, all right, who would we put a long stick midi on? What's the athleticism of that midfielder? Oh wow, that guy's beating, so and so from Richmond. We had trouble beating that man. There's absolute value in having that common opponent, that common thread with the Richmond Spiders. Plus, we understand the Richmond Spiders in terms of their schemes and their approach to the game, so we can see like some things that worked and some things that may not have worked. So it helps us also with our strategy.
And for the players, I know you guys have a good amount of respect for Richmond. You've played them a bunch.
Sure.
Does that amp up kind of your appreciation for what St. Joe's might be?
Absolutely. If we were playing a team from a conference that we didn't have familiarity with, we may fall into the trap of thinking, oh, okay, this is a mid-major. We know that what Richmond has done to us, 2 years ago over at Robins Stadium, and we know how tough of a battle it was this year at Robins Stadium, and so we know that this is an opponent. If they can beat Richmond, that's a big deal, and so the level of respect is certainly there.
You called Matt Noon's performance in the last game mundane.
Mm-hmm.
You said you needed better. Where is your confidence level that you will get better, and how important is goaltending in the NCAA tournament?
Any sport with a goalie, you want a hot goalie in the playoffs, and we're hoping Matt can do it. And he's been a hot goalie in the playoffs, as we saw clearly last year. I mean, Matt, in the semifinal game against Notre Dame last year, a ridiculous number of saves. We're not losing that game by one without Matt Nunes a year ago. So we need him to just get back into that postseason form that we've seen him do, and that'll be absolutely critical. You're right, I did call his performance mundane, and a lot of that had to do with because the guy at the other end was heroic. What Liam Entenmann was doing was amazing.
And on the same front, though, defensively, I know you want to be better in front of Matthew. What has to improve on that end of things?
Yeah, we are. We've got to be better with our on-ball positioning and our off-ball slide communication. What we did well the first time against Notre Dame, I give Chris Wojcik, the offensive coordinator for Notre Dame, he broke some things down. He studied us. You asked me questions like, what's the benefit of playing a team a second time? I said there's benefits, but unfortunately there's some benefits for the bad guys too, and they analyzed and they saw some things. So for us, what it comes down to is better on-ball defense, and then off-ball, are we freezing? Are we switching and holding our match, or are we keeping our match up? So that's what we got to do a better job in that communication.
Notre Dame came out and scored the first four, and that's happened a few times this season. How big of an emphasis are you putting on just starting fast?
Yeah, I won't overdo that. It's a bit of an obvious, but to point out what just happened, you're right. Like, they're up 4-0, and we had not done a whole lot wrong, and so they're just playing. Notre Dame took us out behind the woodshed on Friday night. And then they started off really, really well. So it's absolutely key. You're right. It's a confidence booster. It sends an early statement. Yes, the way we start this game on Saturday here at Klöckner is going to be really important.
Last week you talked about just getting back to a place where you're making better decisions under pressure. How do you feel like you guys are doing in terms of that?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Friday night's game down in Charlotte, there wasn't a whole lot of pressure, after the first half, and so we won't know that until we get in those situations, which we certainly anticipate here in the NCAA tournament, as we're playing only really, really good teams. But yeah, that the pressure of the opponent is the physical piece of that is definitely going to be present with St. Joe's. St. Joe's is a 10-man, all-in committed ride team. We like to pressure ride. This is a team that's always. They are bringing that goalie out. They are getting after you. They're chopping you. They're hitting you hard. And so we are going to have to deal with the physical pressure for sure of an opponent that might actually be bigger than us. And I'm talking like taller and wider. Like they've got the height and size that we only see in the mirror.
Go ahead.
Sorry, last one for me. Kind of taking away from the game a little bit. We do have the draft tonight. So what is your excitement level for those guys, especially for somebody like Connor?
Yeah, I'm excited for Connor, and hopefully a couple other guys here get their name called out tonight. We are going to gather and we'll celebrate that. Not everyone. We guess still have a few more days of final exams here, but it's going to be a really wonderful night for Connor. And then, like you say, cross our fingers for some other guys. It's so wonderful what the Rabel brothers have done to bring professional lacrosse to this status, to this elite level. Has a long way to go, but no one's ever done this with professional field lacrosse in the past, and it's really, really cool.
What's the significance of getting one more at home, one more at Klöckner under these circumstances?
I know it's really, really important, right? You know, we're the losing streak is obvious, and so we got to get back to who we are, being ferocious, being relentless with ground balls, and to be able to do it at home in front of our fans, at the friendly confines of Klöckner, could be just a really critical piece of the medicine that we need.
And like you said, the losing streak's obvious, but it's May now, and this is where seasons are defined around here.
Sure.
Do these guys understand that, like, this is kind of where it all kind of really counts?
Exactly, and we're pumping that maybe more so than normal because of the losing streak. Like, say, fellas, okay, here we are. Whether we'd won our last 12 games in a row, like our opponent has, or we haven't, it's NCAA tournament time. We've got familiarity here. We're on our home field. But just bring back what we had and always have, our ferocity, our intensity of the ground balls, our decision making. But a lot of it is confidence, right? It's a confidence game, and so we're going to be loose. You want to be mentally sharp but physically loose. That's our goal.
Can we talk about finding another gear? I thought last year's team kind of found another gear when she hit the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Even the 2019 team and 2021 team, and I think Notre Dame found another gear last weekend. So how do you fight for that, in this build-up week?
Yeah, exactly. While getting through final exams too, we're going to practice a little harder than maybe I normally would. Again, without the success lately, I'm like, okay, well let's grind our way through this thing. We got to be careful because it's going to be 90 degrees this week during practice, but I'm going to hang our hat on through hard work, sweat, and maybe some tears. We are going to find our old shtick, our old style, because you're right. We've got to get back to what Virginia lacrosse has always been about in the month of May.
I want to talk about Peyton. He seems like he's the only guy who's solved Entenmann and like how to get shots by him. How do you get him more touches? He's a volume scorer, but could he have even more this postseason? Yeah,
it's getting the ball to Peyton Cormier is always a good thing. You're right. The question is, do we put him inside where he's closer to the goal, or do we have him a little bit more like 10 yards away where he's a little more likely to be open, but the scoring percentage goes down? So we're going to do a mixture of both of those. Bottom line, we don't have to tell Schellenberger to find Cormier. That's first and then second choice. But yeah, getting Peyton more shots is something we're going to continue to push for. He's got a lot of shots as the year goes on, so it's not like we're going to change completely. But I do think you're right. When you're looking at a new setting for the younger men, wow, NCAA tournament, do or die, let's lean on the older guy. Let's lean on the older men and the old guard.
Last question, ground balls. I'm sure you've seen now 2 film sessions of where you were a little bit behind. Was that a Notre Dame thing? Was it a youth thing? Was it a combination? Was it bad bounces? Because there were certainly some bad bounces in there as well. How do you evaluate the ground balls over the last couple of games?
Yeah, 2 weekends ago when they beat us here at Klöckner, it can't all be about bad bounces. They just shellacked us. I actually felt good in a lot of ways with our ground ball play in Charlotte against Notre Dame, and I felt good with our clear. We only failed 1 or 2 clears, and so. What's frustrating about it was that we were able to take advantage and learn from what didn't go well, and we were much better clearing the ball. We were much better off the ground, but then we lost by 9. And it was like, wow, the adjustments they made offensively and then took advantage of some things we were doing defensively, give them credit, and we just couldn't solve that goalie. We talked about earlier, a hot goalie in playoff time? Man, Connor Schellenberger, 0 turnovers, 7 shots. You're like, okay, this is a great day. But none of them go in because Endemann's got 6 saves on him. And is that a bad day? I don't know. When your quarterback has 0 turnovers, but some of those shots you're like, that's it. Oh my God. So it's I'll admit I'm reaching a little bit here more than normal, but it wasn't all that bad.
Yeah.
We go from 27 turnovers against Notre Dame game 1 to 12 game 2.
the Colsey shot too. You know, you had to have thought
It's like 15 less turnovers, you know, and those are connected to clearing. But yeah, we cleared the ball almost every time. So what just happened? And you know, they're playing great as a team, but that goalie, he just wouldn't let us get going. And bottom line, we need Matt News to get back to his May performances.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Talk about
Thank you.
Oh, just one more for me, if that's okay. Talk about the defense maybe not being where you'd like it to be at this point in the season.
Yeah.
We were talking to Mike Prestipino about it. You mentioned maybe simplifying things a little bit more, try to clear things up just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Is that one of the keys that you see to kind of getting that unit performing?
I do. I have a tendency to tinker, and with an older group it works. With a team that has less experience, as I keep reminding myself, that's this team. You know, our short seat team meetings have played so well and surprised me so much that I forget, like, oh yeah, most of them didn't play last year, and or they were a different program last year. And the close defense, you know, we've been rotating new guys in, and so yes, Sunday we met and said, all right, if I say we're going to be brilliant at the basics, that's been my phrase for the week. Let's be brilliant at the basics. What are the basics of UVA defense? So we went through and kind of identified, and let's focus on this. Forget that. Let's focus on this. And so yeah, we're gonna get it back to being a little simpler. And you know, that's my fault for tinkering too much. You know, you get worried that sometimes you tinker and it works, so you think you can tinker again, and it's like, you kind of lost focus on the fundamentals. And so that's what we're getting back to.
I actually do have two more. Sorry.
Sure.
Does it feel like this team, if you put together a great game against St. Joe's, that it is one good game away from everything then clicking?
I do. It reminds, you know, remember 2021 where we barely beat Bryant? You know, nothing to take away from Mike Pressler and his team, but it was like, you know, we were just coming off a 2-4 ACC schedule record, and we lost to Syracuse again, and then we squeaked by Bryant, and it's like, man, I guess maybe it's not our year. And then we destroy Georgetown and go on and win a national championship. So I think we are. We're just like one good game, because again, when you're in the midst of this losing streak, it's hard to remember those. If we can just put together one good game, I really like this team.
And while you're reminiscing then about that year, what was the value of Alex in the cage and
I know
the way he got going?
Exactly. It's everything. It's so important because, again, as you know, there's a symbiotic relationship between the defense and the goalie. If the goalie's making saves on those 12-yard shots, you pack it in and take care of the crease because you're like, that 12-yard shot's good. All of a sudden, that 12-yard shot starts going in, you start pressing out, and all of a sudden the inside open, and they're getting dunks. And so that's that relationship. So we have a ton of faith in Matt, and we're hopefully he can find that. And we believe in him, and if he can just find that May performance the way he plays, we got a chance to get on a roll here.